Services Committee. Senator, it's good of you to join us. If you were able to hear what Jay Carney said there, do you agree that no one in the administration has been blocking anybody from testifying?
Well, he needs to call the State Department. I wrote a letter weeks ago asking the State Department to provide the names of the 5 security officers who were involved, who were responsible for providing protection at the consulate in Benghazi. I got a letter back yesterday saying that they're not going to be provided, the names won't be provided to me or Congress because they're worried about the identities of these people being compromised, and there's an ongoing FBI investigation. Well, number one, we can interview these people without revealing their identities, and this is not a crime we're trying to solve. We're trying to get to the bottom of a national security disaster. So, Jay Carney, call the State Department and get them to change their mind about telling me that these witnesses will not be made available.
Gregory Hicks, who was the #2 State Department official in the country that night, says he was trying to get the Defense Department to scramble fighter jets to at least overfly the compound and make some noise, maybe scare some people off. The administration seems to have indicated that would have been sort of a breach of international protocol. We violated
ridiculous.
Pakistani airspace to get Osama bin Laden.
Well, I tell you, that's a ridiculous excuse, and the idea they couldn't get there in time is puzzling because they did not tell us when they attacked the consulate how long the attack would last. So I asked Dempsey and Panetta, at the time you were made aware of the attack on the consulate, did you know when it would be over? This could have went for days. So the idea they didn't scramble the jets because they couldn't get there in time defies common sense. And if this is the excuse given, we don't want to violate Libyan airspace, that's ridiculous. I'd hate to be serving in some volatile region of the world if that's going to be our American policy, because nobody will ever have you back.
You've been one of the voices in that building, the Capitol building, railing about what's gone on here. Fox News has done a significant amount of reporting, but other outlets have not. Now, all of a sudden, it's on page 1 of the Washington Post and other papers today, the fact that Gregory Hicks' account is going to be told to Congress. Are you pleased that this story is finally getting some legs?
Yeah, not for me, but for the people who lived through the debacle called Benghazi. CBS has done a pretty good job, particularly Cheryl Atkinson and Bob Schieffer. But the reason I want the information to come out is because America needs to hear the truth about what happened in Benghazi, and what Washington was telling the American people about Benghazi did not reflect the truth of what happened on the ground. It was 7 weeks before an election. I think they were jealously guarding the narrative that al-Qaeda was on decline, bin Laden was dead, we're all safer, and Benghazi destroyed that narrative. And it's time for the people who lived through Benghazi and the families of those who died to hear the truth. It was a terrorist attack from the very beginning, and the excuses as why they couldn't be reinforced really don't make sense. And we're going to hold people accountable. The goal is to hold people accountable in an appropriate way.
And what if it turns out that those 2 former Navy SEALs, Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty, who were killed in the second wave of attacks at the Annex, what if it turns out that their lives might have been saved by some kind of a quick response?
Well, what if it turns out that Benghazi was a death trap and should never have been opened, and Secretary Clinton and the higher-ups in the State Department ignored warnings for months? I think that's important. What does it mean not to have any military assets available? And if there were assets available, what does it mean to be told there were none available? Are we being misled here? So yes, we want to know, could it have been prevented? The families need to know the circumstances of how their loved ones died. Those who were in harm's way, the American people need to know that they were under attack by al-Qaeda groups, not by a riot generated by video that had nothing to do with this. The truth matters in times like this, and we also need to understand, is our foreign policy working? Is this light footprint leading from behind, outsourcing to non-existent governments because you don't want to have a large American presence? Is it working? I would suggest that Libya is Exhibit A, that our foreign policy in the Mideast is not working.
A lot of questions yet to be answered. Perhaps we will start getting some answers tomorrow at those hearings. Senator Lindsey Graham.
One last thing.
Yes.
I hope there's some bipartisan desire to get to the truth here, because there should be bipartisan desire to find out what happened to these people and why the story told in Washington was so wrong.
That's a very important point. Senator Lindsey Graham, thank you.
Thank you.